What's going on, everybody? This your boy Mike from Trouble Down Productions, and today this is going to be my recap and review of last night's episode, The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 7, Sing Me a Song. Now, last night's episode had some of the most comic book stuff that we've seen so far. Now, this season in a whole so far has been just straight out of the comic books, and I'm loving it, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too. Now, if you are not reading the comics, I would suggest to do so. Go pick them up, start reading them. Right now, we are still on volume 18. I buy mine by the volumes instead of the single issues. But I'm basically going to go through last night's episode because about 75% of that episode came straight from the comics. Now, we got the trucks pulling into the compound at where Negan is, and as you can see, Carl is hiding under mattresses, which is the same mattresses that they burned in the show, but in the comic version, they actually took the mattresses. Carl gets out, blasts a bunch of them. And, Negan says straight up that, he scares the shit out of him, he said the same thing in the show, which was pretty fucking cool. Dwight goes and attacks him and all this stuff, and Negan, is like, you're gonna beat up on a defenseless child, which, Carl is a little bit younger in the comics than he is in the show. But we did hear about Negan beating kids like 15 and up down in the show. So I think his character on the show is a bit more evil than his comic version. And just in this one scene, we have actually two panels that came straight out of the comics. Is that any way to treat our guests? And then in the other one, he's like, I don't think I'll be fucking so much as one of my wives tonight. Basically said the same thing in the show. Even in that line where he told him, don't be a disappointment, don't be scared of me, you're a badass, right before he took him into the compound. It's straight right there. As you can see, I don't know if y'all can read it like that, but yeah, same shit. We got a really big look. This episode was mainly cut in half for two different things. It was showing us the inside of the sanctuary and what it's like under his rule, and then it was more or less him and Carl episode. So they did really well with it. As you can see here in this big panel up top, they made it look very similar, if not exact, to the show, which is just awesome. We got Negan that takes Carl up to the room, and just all these panels, it's basically just them talking the same conversation that they had in the show last night, with him wanting Carl to take his bandage off, showing him his eye, and then here's the big panel of Carl revealing his eye to Negan, and Negan just like down here flips shit. You could really tell the emotion from the comic. And even the show, like after he had fucked with him for a second about his eye, he was just like, damn kid, I'm sorry, I mean, you really don't know if he's still just acting or whatnot, but you could really feel, at least I felt like he really did feel bad for Carl, which spawns this whole weird relationship between him and Carl. And for those of you that were worried that Daryl was going to take that storyline, get that shit out of here, man. No way, no fucking way in hell. And you got the conversation still going on, and then after all that, he's like, sing me a song. Carl sings him the same song from the comics. And even when you were seeing Negan just swatting the bat as Carl was singing, even that was, in the comics. And then Carl stops, he's like, well, don't let me distract you, and this, that, and the other, and it just ripped from the comics, man. It was really awesome. And then you had his little speech when he was talking to everybody, and everybody was kneeled down, and Carl being up there with him, all that was from the comics as well. When he burned Mark's face with the iron right there, that's when he did it in the comics. So, I mean, we're right at... after this episode, we're right at the tail end of volume 18, or getting mighty close to it. The biggest difference is the whole Jesus thing. He did follow them to the compound like he did in the show, but I do believe it's gonna work out a very different way in the show. Jesus is still going to go back to Rick and tell him, I found Negan's compound. A little bit different flip of the story was when Jesus went back and told Rick in the comics, Rick went to the sanctuary to find Carl. But in the TV show, obviously, Negan is waiting on Rick to get back at Alexandria. So Negan is there. Poor Rick, he's going to have a fucking heart attack when he sees this shit. Spencer found that bow and went ahead and got the bow from the walker that was in the tree. He found that letter that was written in Latin, so apparently the guy can read Latin. And found all that stuff. Now I want to talk about something else too, just for a second. The whole Rosita thing and the bullet. I really just wanted to punch her in the fucking face last night. I never really have liked her character, but last night she really pissed me off with the way she was talking to Eugene. Because that's like the second or third time she's did that shit. At some point you just gotta be like, just step the fuck back, bitch. This whole one bullet thing, they've put a big emphasis on it for like a couple episodes now. One bullet will make me one bullet. At the end of the episode, you seen that he made her the bullet. I think that bullet though is going to come into play in a very, very big way, and I'm not going to talk about that right now. I just have my own little predictions on what I think is going to happen with that. You got Rick and Aaron that's been out this whole episode. Didn't really show much of them, maybe like 2 or 3 scenes, but they found this big poster board and they put a lot of emphasis on him, he, like through the whole thing. So it kind of makes me feel like the person who wrote that could very well be Magna. So we may be seeing her pretty soon. Just 2 more quick things I wanted to point out. If you were paying attention during the preview, like after the episode, they had that preview or whatnot for next week, which will be another 90-minute episode, which makes 3 in the first half of the season that we've had, which is just fucking great. Negan was actually clean shaved, so we know, at least at this point, he's gonna be shaved probably the next time we see him. Probably shaves at Alexandria since he's just kind of hanging out there. Just one more quick thing for those of you who think that like they just gonna get rid of Negan in like 1 season, probably a small spoiler slip from JDM last night. But during the Talking Dead, they did their little interview with him or whatever, and he basically says, he can't wait for people to see what happens in the years to come. Years. So that means JDM's going to be Negan for a while. He's still alive in the comics. So everybody who thinks that, they're going to kill him off this season or next season, you're wrong. Like, they're not. Like, Negan's going to be around for a while, so people just going to have to get used to it. Other than that, I'm going to give the episode like a 9.5. I love the episode last night. Season 7 has quickly jumped to my favorite season. I love you guys. Dead to Zombies, Trouble Down Productions. You guys rock.